So, what is it like to climb and build and climb an antenna tower? And there are different sizes and types of towers. So, any of them that you just tilt up or whatever, we're not really going to focus on those. Some of them are crank up, they go straight up. Although I haven't seen any like that go more than like 30 feet, even though I think that they do have some that go 60 or 80 feet that are like more industrial. So this will probably be a multi-part series. We're going to tackle one part now, and in the next part we'll probably look at some photos I've taken up on the tower, at 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 foot. So my first tower is, I believe, an Ameriride or American Tower Special Series. And these guys usually are 40 foot, maybe a little bit less height than that, 20, 30, 40 foot. They have pretty sturdy climbing spaces here, but look how far apart. That's each step you have to take. And I'm like really tall, 6'2", and I still have struggled trying to step up there. So you have to use your arms to pull as you're trying to get your tiptoe here until you get your footing or whatever, and then kind of adjust. Then pull your arms up, pull down, so pull up, step, and they definitely get a little wobbly up there at the top. I think up to 40 foot, you don't even have to have guy lines, or at least permanent guy wires. And even like a eaves mount or whatever, where it mounts to the wall of a building, if you put it like to the side of the building, that counts as a guy line or support. And then you also have the support, the concrete or whatever at the bottom. But it is recommended, and I would highly recommend it, to at least put temporary guy lines, and at every section as you go up, especially at the 20, 30, 40 foot mark or whatever. And I would keep guy lines connected to the top, even if you want to disconnect them later after your antenna is up. When I built this tower, let me just zoom on up to the top. I did not have the right equipment to do it. We made like a makeshift gin pole, like pulleys and a very flimsy pole to go up here. And I have seen people actually climb a tower and put, with their arms, just arms, that holding the, 38, 40 pound section at the bottom, and just, putting the connections together. I did that with the 20 foot section, about killed me. And I said, no way am I going to try to do that at, 30 up to 40 foot there. So I had help, somebody that was actually an engineer in the past, and he built the kind of makeshift gin pole, not really knowing what a gin pole was, just kind of maybe looking on YouTube and kind of seeing how things work. And yeah, the pole just wasn't strong, so it was flexing majorly. And it was a heavy pole as well to pull up. And it wasn't as hard as putting, your hands out and clamping those pieces together, pulling them in, the pipes. But it was dangerous as shit, we were lucky we survived, or at least we're lucky we finished it and not gave up. It was not easy. You need like a really strong rope to hoist those pieces up on the pulley system. And a proper gin pole probably has 2 pulleys. I got one finally for the other tower build. And you can use a rope that is not super sturdy to pull up the antennas and, you know, your little tool bags and stuff like that. So a really good rope that pulls up 40 pounds up to, you know, 80, 100 foot, 200 foot in the air is going to be pretty expensive. This rope here was like a Rural King or special for like $2 or $3, and it has no core. It's basically like a piece of foam. Any cut or anything would just make it break. I actually had a little ember that flew up from a fire when I was using some rope like this to hold a tree up or pull a tree up that kind of bent downward, you know, to kind of let it grow straight up again. And it probably holds, you know, 50 to 100 pounds as long as it is not like broken. So a little tiny ember from the fire like just barely touched it, and I was watching it just boom, and it just like boom, like a flick of fire, and then it was just cut in half like that. So I mean, the core, it doesn't have any strength. It's just this outer, like a nylon or whatever it is, that has all the strength in it. But these do work good for pulling up stuff that, you know, probably 20 pounds or less, maybe a little bit more, but you got to be careful, make sure there aren't any cuts or anything in it. But yeah, on this tower, once we got it up, you obviously got your guy lines. I've got it about at, let's see, it looks like probably at 20 foot, and then probably at about 35 foot, because the first 4 foot is in the ground. So we don't have to have that guy line, especially in the middle. And like I said, you don't have to have the top guy line at all, except temporarily when you're building it, or which I should say climbing it, because, you know, when you're building it, you should have, you know, some people say every 20 foot. I would do it every 10 foot. But your guy line at the top, I just keep it up there, and I keep the middle one just for more support. So I talked about how kind of sturdy these little pipes are, or whatever. Here's steps, but they are not comfortable, even with some decent shoes. And I have climbed in these sandals several times, and I finally said, well, I'm going to get some climbing shoes. And I got some that are pretty much dedicated to that, a lot more comfortable, a lot more support. And even then, your feet get wore out. You got to kind of shift your feet around. On the other tower, the Ron 25G, I have a special plate that comes out that you can stand on, which is so much better, especially if you're going to be up there for an hour or more. So tower number 1, we probably did not put near enough cement concrete in the base, and it still has been sturdy and good. But when I started on the 80-foot tower, I put it to the engineering specs, which was a lot of work, a lot of money, a lot of time mixing concrete, putting rebar in to reinforce everything, and all that good stuff. But, you know, just this one, surprisingly, with the concrete and the guy lines, it's been perfect. When I built this one, I only had the lineman's belt, and I only had the one actual strap piece that goes around, and it was made for like a lot larger diameter poles and stuff to climb up. So you wrap it around this thing, you'd have to wrap it like 2.5 times around these tower sides or whatever, and just so you can kind of lean back and put some of the weight onto your back instead of everything on your, you know, hands, shoulders, and feet. So later on, I decided to get a second strap, with the more updated safety clamps, where you cannot just unclamp yourself without pressing a second button, you know, like a push a release button, and then you pull the clamp out, which, you know, made it a lot safer and a lot easier, because basically you're free climbing with just a single strap or whatever. Here's an example of the new style of clamps. So you can't just open it up and like just fall off the tower because something gets loose or you grab the wrong thing. You got to push this release button here. Then you can clamp it into your loops, or clamp it to something on the tower or whatever. So having two of those clamp straps, I forget the name of them, is crucial, you know, as one of your safety features. I'm not going to teach safety because there are other ones, especially if you're in like the commercial field as a licensed person. You know, they have to be only so much years old, then they have to be thrown away, then you have to replace your equipment. And there are some, you know, a fall safety thing where if you fall, you're like 6 foot, it catches you, you're gonna still get hurt pretty bad. If you fall with the strap on and your guy lines are what catches you, you know, where the set of guy lines are, you could fall 25 feet, you know, and be extremely hurt, possibly killed. Less chance of dying doing that than, you know, coming 50 or 60 feet straight to the ground or the concrete, but you could still die or get hurt doing that. So yeah, there are, you know, a lot of things, and there are harness systems where you actually are sitting, you know, in the back area with your weight versus just a lineman's belt around you. So a lineman's belt can slip out from underneath you, where the harness, you know, you can wrap it around your legs, and, you know, it can't easily do that, although you may be able to turn upside down. On the Ron 25G tower, here's your footsteps. There you go. And see how closer they are together? Boom. Way closer, like a normal, just slightly above most like steps, maybe 3 to 4 inches higher than like if you're got porch steps or whatever. Obviously these areas here are smaller, so probably more pain on your feet. So wear something that is supportive and has like a thick bottom or something to help you with that. No matter what, if you have not climbed a tower at all or ever, these might look like a ladder to some people, some of them, but most ladders actually have a tilt or an angle going on the eaves or the end of the roof or the wall or whatever you're climbing up. Our painter's ladder kind of goes in a V section. These go straight up and down. So gravity is pulling against you all the time. See that little section there? That is a support, you know, so you can stand and work there for hours at a time. Not the easiest to get up and down, you know, gotta kind of pull it out in a certain way, yank it and tilt it and attach a rope to it and bring it up or down and do it all over again. Yes, you are sore, especially the first few climbs you make, you know, in a new season, or if you've never did it. I'm still sore from like 5 days ago of climbing another tower. It makes like every bone in your body seem sore for a while until you get used to it again. You can see they're triangular, these towers. So they're made for up to 3 people, 1 on each side, to, you know, stand up, climb, do whatever they need to do, you know, hoist stuff up and down, and hopefully have somebody at the bottom here to, you know, tie stuff to your rope so you can bring things up and down easily. So a little change of scenery here. Got a nice little breeze. Mosquitoes are present, but not super prevalent, which is 2 days in a row, which is not bad at all. Kind of nice. I think we were supposed to get like thunderstorms all day after 2 o'clock. Hasn't happened yet, thankfully. We really don't need the flooding and all that stuff for the mosquitoes. Although a little sprinkle and a drizzle for a while is good for the plants and the top layer of the soil, to get everything, grass and the flowers and fruit trees and stuff, a little bit of a nice little drink. So, is climbing a tower scary because of the gravity situation, because of how much you have to put on your legs, and in the case of the Merite Tower, which has so much spacing that you have to use your arms to pull up on it. Some professionals say they just use their legs. They have the exact right belt and straps and all that stuff, so they climb up, pop their belt up, just use their legs 2 steps, pop the belt up, and if you have the perfect scenario, maybe that works for you. But I just sort of have to use my arms. I haven't found a good comfortable setting for any of the belts so that I can just do it the way they climb. Does the wind and the shakiness of the tower bother me? Not at all. You feel it? And I don't know what happens 200 foot in the air on some of the other towers, but it's just it's kind of nice to me, just a little tiny bit of the breeze. But the worst part is when the sun is really hot up there. It is way hotter near the top of the trees or above than it is down below under the shade. So do not pick a super hot summer day to go out there and start climbing towers, especially one that's like 80 foot in the air. I guess the scariest part is when you're using your arms, legs, feet, and everything. You kind of wonder, do I have it in me, the muscles and the mobility, everything, to climb all the way to the top, to stay there and then get to the bottom, and I would say that's the hardest part initially, until after you're down, or the next day or a few days, and you're really, really sore and you're like, I shouldn't have did it. But you have to go through that because your muscles and everything are moving in a different way than you normally do when you're sitting, walking, laying, running, whatever, jogging. Everything is being pried and pulled a certain way when you're going up and down the tower, or just standing there and working on a tower. Does the height itself bother me? It probably bothers a lot of people. I would revert back to the last question is, or whatever, or statement that, everything, the exerting your muscles and pulling and coming, you kind of are so far up there and you're like, well, I made it up here. I'm tired already. Do I have the strength to go down or back up and down and up and down? And that, the further you are in the air, the worse that portion gets for me. As someone that is climbing and doing all the equipment, inside or above the tower, you also have, especially if you do not have a rotator, you're not going to have your preamp plugged in and on while you're going up there on time 1 or 2 or whatever. You get all your equipment set up there, so you don't have everything aimed, obviously, and tested. So you have to come down after everything's soaked up, test it out, see if you get a signal, and then go back up again and adjust everything. Luckily, with the HD Home Run 4K tuner, I have an app. It's a paid app. I think it's called GH Signal. That, once I program everything in down here, I can go, up the tower, and even though I don't have much cell signal or Wi-Fi signal on the ground, up in the air, I have it everywhere. I can watch the TV tuner or anything in the air, because there's less obstacles and trees and shrubs and everything, up there versus down here, impeding your signal. So you get a better signal in the air. And being a one-man team, if you have an issue and you don't have your tools or the right tools to fix, stuff up there, you're going to make several trips down, up, until you hopefully get everything right. So you got to kind of get in that physical shape where your muscles aren't hurting quite as much over, a couple weeks or periods, where it doesn't bother you as much to go up and down, and then until the next season or whatever, you have another problem, hopefully 5-10 years down the road. But then you got to start the process all over again. And the older you get, it seems like the aches and pains that come afterward, a day after or plus, are worse. Anyway, I guess we'll end part 1 here, and just wanted to talk a little bit about, how it feels to climb, and maybe part 2 will have a bunch of pictures.